Hello and welcome to another episode of Squirtified Engineering. I'm Sprutis, and if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing so you can stay up to date with all my different projects. So it's another Supra segment, as you can see behind me, my lovely Supra. And I got the request of explaining a bit further about the timing belt replacement that I did in episode 2. I think, where I went from, I had a Gates racing timing belt, and due to age I wanted to replace it to be on the safe side, as it's a cheap insurance of keeping the engine alive. So I have the service manual on my phone, so that I can follow the steps in that one. I will not do a timing belt change now, so you will have to go back to episode 2, and I'm not sure how much I showed there, but what I would be doing more exactly today is going through all the steps and explaining what to think about and what can make it easier and so on, how to get it right. So to start off with, it's an inline 6, so a multiple of 3 cylinders, which makes it a lot easier, because the benefit is that the torques, they cancel each other out. So, or the forces cancel each other out, meaning that as soon as you remove the timing belt, the engine will stay like this, especially the camshafts. If you've done it on a 4-cylinder engine, for example, then you know that you need to lock the camshafts in a certain position. But here you can just turn the camshafts to the position that you want, and everything is much easier. So the first point that you will see in the service handbook is the replacement schedule, or service maintenance schedule, and it says timing belt replace after 9,600 kilometers. I think I read somewhere 5 years, but since I can't read it here, I can't say that's true. It could be that it's a recommendation from Gates. I know that tires, vehicle tires, especially motorcycle tires, you need to change after 5 years, because they turn, they hardens and might even become brittle after a time. But since my engine is a bit from stock, I don't want to sort of let it live on borrowed time. So 9,600 kilometers, and I think you can also have the miles. Hold on. Yeah, so it's 60,000 miles for you Imperial unit users. So I replaced mine of my Gates racing timing belt after 5 years. So let's have a look in the engine bay. So here we have the engine bay, and on the first page in the service handbook, they show you an overview of all the parts, and that's required. So in here, in this area, We will have the timing belt, we will have camshaft pulleys, we will have timing belt idler pulley, we will have the crankshaft timing pulley, and we will have an oil pump drive pulley. Those are the main things that the timing belt will touch. But that's not enough. So as you can see, what you need to do, down here you have the crankshaft pulley. Mine is an ATI super damper without the AC pulley mounted. So it's quite easy to see then that there's this nut sticking out, or screw. I believe it's 17 millimeters, could be 19. What you need to do is rotate it. So you will rotate it clockwise, and the idea is to get the engine to TDC. I will show you a bit more soon, but first more of an overview. So that's one of the components you need to have a look at. You also have on this cover, the aluminum one, you have indications for TDC and degrees relative to TDC. So you have 0, which is on TDC, 5, 10 and 15 degrees. And then we have, if we go from below and up, here we have the water pump pulley. Normally you also have a fan, but since I have electrical ones, I don't have it. So that one is something you will need to remove, and when you remove that, you will also need to remove the alternator belt, well, the belt, auxiliary belt, so water pump and alternator. You have the tension stuff here. So you have one screw down here, and then here is the nut which you move the alternator with. So you also need to loosen this screw. You have a nut on the other side, so you loosen that and then you can rotate it. The other thing is the coolant hose. So normally you need to, well, in order to get the area to work in, you need to remove this, and then you can also remove the radiator. That would give you enough room to work down here without damaging the radiator. So, and you don't need to remove the thermostat housing. You could do it if you replace the thermostat. And then you have the plastic timing belt cover. And if you, I will show it later, but down here there's a cut, because when you clock the camshafts, you need to remove this, but you don't always want to remove the coolant hose and drain all the coolant. So if you cut it, then you can just undo these screws, and that will give you enough access to change the timing of the camshafts. So I will remove this, and also the oil cap. So according to the service handbook, the first step is to remove the radiator. Quite easy. You need to drain the fluid. You do it from below, of course, with a tap, and then you can remove the hose, and then also this one from the filler neck, and then you can remove the mountings, the brackets, which are 12mm, I believe. Yeah, so that's 12mm, and then you can get that out of the way. The next thing it wants you to remove are the spark plugs, and that's because it makes it well, first of all, easier to rotate the engine when you use the screw on the crankshaft. And it actually calls you to or tells you to remove the thermostat housing outlet or the water outlet, which are two 10mm screws. So you remove that just to get it completely out of the way, and perhaps that's true if you haven't cut off the top timing belt cover. So I guess this is not even the correct screws. I took 2 insect screws. So the benefit here is that I can just lift it up. So it's pretty clean. Before removing this cover, the service manual actually says or tells you to remove the cooling fan. So remove that, get it out of the way, and then you have the cam gears visible. And then it tells you to set the cylinder 1 to TDC at compression. That means that both intake valves and exhaust valves are closed. So let's do that. So down there, not sure if you can see it, but the markings on my crank pulley is calling that it's a TDC. So then we look here and we don't see any markings on it, so that means that we are at bottom dead center. So another revolution. Now you see the marks on the camshaft coming up. Like so. So now I have, it's not perfect, but you will get the idea. The crankshaft pulley is showing TDC. We have these markings aligning with these indents. Same here. So to verify that, you can actually look in the oil fill hole. Let me get a light. So what you see down there is the lobe of the intake camshaft coming up to top dead center. Currently I'm not fully at TDC. I'm about 10 degrees before TDC. But it means that the lobe on the intake camshaft and exhaust camshaft is pointing up. Another way to confirm that is, since you will, when you do it properly, you will remove whatever ignition system you have and the spark plug. Then you can take you can take an extension. Don't I have that? Something like this, and you place it down there. You don't drop it down, you put it down carefully so you don't destroy anything. And it can't be tight against the threads, and the point of that is just so that you can see when it's going up, and then it will stay at the top for a while before it goes down. So then you can rotate the crank 2 more turns, so that the next time it goes to that position you will know when to stop. And so you have a combination of things to correlate. You have the markings on the crankshaft pulley, you have the markings on the camshaft exhaust pulley and intake pulley, as well as the lobe of the camshaft, intake camshaft and exhaust camshaft, as well as the extension you put in the cylinder, so it's moved by the piston. The next step is to remove the timing belt. And down here you see there's a plug here, a rubber grommet. If you remove that, you will actually have removed the entire cover. So behind here is the screw which holds the idler pulley. So you loosen that, and then if you look in the service handbook, you can put tension on it, on the spring that holds the idler pulley. Meaning, and when you do that, you will actually put less tension on the timing belt. So then you can just pull it off. But as long as you have the markings on the camshaft gears correlating with the markings on the rear timing belt cover, you're in the correct spot. The next thing to do according to the service handbook is to remove the crankshaft pulley. If you have the stock pulley, it's quite easy. I think there are 2 M6 or M8 screws, next to the screw holding the pulley, which you can screw in, that will push out the pulley. So it's very easy. If you have a pulley like me, an ATI super damper, it's a bit trickier, because then you need a special tool. Build it yourself or buy it. You don't need to buy the ATI tool. There are other versions to buy. And also, if you're at the same time upgrading to an ATI super damper, then remember that you need a different screw. The threads is of course the same. This was 19 millimeter. The socket is also the same, but it has a built-in washer, which is too big for the hole. So you can turn it down, or you can buy it pre-made from Drift Motion. The service handbook also tells you to remove the camshaft pulleys, and if you're only replacing the timing belt, then there's no need to do it. But if you're doing it, then you might as well replace the seals like I did, which are behind here. The pulleys, they have a plug. Can't remember the English word, but it's a piece of metal which is making sure that you get the correct placement for the pulley in relation to the camshaft. It's the same on both. These are Fidanza pulleys, so they have 3 holes. Maybe the stock also have 3 holes, but just take the center one, and then you will be fine. And if you're already down the rabbit hole and replacing the seals, then I would recommend you to replace, so first camshaft seals. You have the oil pump seal behind there. Usually you have an AC bracket there, and then also the crankshaft seal. They are quite easy to replace, actually. What I do is I take a self-tapping screw, a small enough one, screw it in just by hand, and then a screwdriver to pry it out. So once you have the crankshaft pulley off, you can you might need to remove the power steering line going in front, but then you can remove the aluminum timing cover, the lower timing cover, and then you will have full access to the route of the timing belt. And again, if you're only replacing the timing belt, then you don't need to pull off the gear. You have a smaller gear with teeth like these on the crankshaft, so that it works with the timing belt. But if you're replacing the seals, then you need to remove it. And then you also have the oil pump gear. Again, if you're replacing the seals, remove the gear. Try and be careful with it. There are like special tools which you also use on the camshaft gears, which go in, and then you have a handle so you can have some torque on it. Then you can remove the screw. Same thing with the oil pump pulley. So after that, you're just putting everything back on. So I would say, if you're taking the time to replace the timing belt, replace all the seals. So a total of 4: camshaft, oil pump, crankshaft. Then you have the timing belt itself. You have the idler gear, idler pulley, and you have a spring for it. I would just replace everything just to be on the safe side, so you don't need to go in there and do it again. So then you will put the crankshaft gear back, the one for the timing belt, the inner one. You will put back the oil pump pulley. Then you will route the timing belt around those and install the new idler pulley, so you can sort of lay it on top. Then it's easy to just install the camshaft gears. So it's easy to get, like I said, the pulleys correct to the camshafts themselves, and then it's just a matter of having the mark straight up. You will also see the cam lobe pointing straight up if you remove the valve covers, and again you will also have the extension in the cylinder at the top as well, highest position. So then it's just a matter of pushing on the timing belt. Again, since you don't need to lock the gears in any position, you just place them there. It's very easy. Just put tension on the timing belt over the idler pulley, follow the exhaust pulley, and then over to the intake. So when you have everything in place, you will temporarily loosen the screw holding the idler pulley, which will make the spring do its work on the timing belt, putting a bit of tension. And then you can put back the screw for the crankshaft pulley, but you don't need to put on the pulley just yet. And then you can rotate it and see that after 2 whole rotations you will be back at TDC on the crankshaft and TDC on both camshafts. It will be very easy to spot if you're 1 tooth off or even several tooth off. So it's pretty much straightforward. And then when you don't really need to put any extra tension on the idler pulley. Just be strict, so to say. The service handbook actually tells you to only loosen the screw, so you only use spring tension to put tension on the timing belt. It's then important that the piece of the timing belt running up here from the idler pulley to the exhaust crankshaft camshaft pulley, if you push on the timing belt in that direction, and then the one going down from the intake camshaft pulley to the oil pump shaft pulley, the tension in that direction in the middle of them should be the same. So that tension should be the same as the tension you can feel on the belt here. Then you're good. If you do too much tension, you will actually pull the camshafts down, and that will destroy the bearing surfaces on in the cylinder head. So don't do that. Don't put too much tension on the idler pulley. So once you're happy with the placement of the timing belt, then you can put back the aluminum lower cover. You can then put back the crankshaft pulley and install the screw, and then do this. So you cut it at 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth track running along here. I just used an angle grinder. It's not that pretty, but it will be covered by the coolant hose, so no one will see it. That makes it easier in the future. So one reason for having adjustable cam gears, well, basically first off, you're pretty much done with the timing belt replacement, and if you have or replaced the head gasket with a metal head gasket, meaning you have resurfaced the cylinder head, the cylinder block with the rear lower timing cover, then you have changed the distance between the camshafts and the crankshafts. Now this distance isn't that much, but so if you're only using the stock camshafts, then there's no need to go with the adjustable ones. But if you want to be, perfect on TDC, then you need those, because then you can change the rotation of the camshafts in correlation to the crankshaft, so that you get correct timing. In my case, I have a metal head gasket, and I also have BC camshafts, stage 2. So what I had to do was I had to measure on the shim on the bucket for the on top of the valve, so that I could get the correct specification as said in the sort of manual for the camshafts. That's why I had to degree the camshafts, change the position. So I think we have everything that's important, but just to recap, the camshafts themselves will not move when you remove the timing belt, so you don't need to lock them in any position. You have the way to install them are with the marking up towards the indent that will correlate to the first cylinder cam lobe pointing straight up, so the small end upwards. Same thing with the exhaust cam lobe, same thing with the camshaft position. The mark will align with the mark in the rear cover. You have the crankshaft pulley to align towards the aluminum timing cover down there. And it's on the aluminum timing cover where you have the marks for TDC. So when I said before that you can install the screw and so on to rotate the engine, then you can put the your extension bar in the cylinder, make it go to the top, then you know that the piston is at TDC. Now the battery is blinking, and then you have everything you need, because one tooth off is quite a lot. So we will see if we can make it before the battery runs out, but I think I have covered most of the things. It's not very hard, and if you have the service handbook, then you can follow that as well. And so if you go through this video, then I think it will be an aid to your work. And I think that's pretty much it. If you install aftermarket cam gears like I've done, the screws holding the rear timing cover, they are too big, so I had to grind them down. The screw down there is a bit ground down, but it's possible. But remember to do that, otherwise the gears will hit them. I think I've covered most of the things to look out for. If you're doing the head gasket, then there are some other things to look out for. But for the timing belt, replace as much as possible since you're anyway in there. Make sure that the crankshaft pulley is okay, because it has this rubber, vulcanized rubber, which gets dry. So I think that's it. So thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Please comment and ask me questions. I think we can cover the rest in messages if you have any. And you can also give me suggestions on what to cover in upcoming videos. But until then, stay safe, take care, and bye.